This episode of the Linux Action Show is brought to you by the good-looking folks at GoDaddy.com. Use our code Linux and save yourself some cash. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Linux Action Show, Season 23, Episode 8. My name is Chris.
And my name is Matt.
Hey Matt, are you ready for a big show today?
I am. I'm even wearing my shirt, and so are you.
We're both wearing red shirts, and
Yes,
normally that would mean look out, we might be in danger. But today it means we're tuned for extreme performance.
You bet.
Well, and actually, we're going to see if we can't pull off two things that sometimes don't go together. Getting the best performance out of your machine and doing things to make it more efficient, but also increasing battery life and troubleshooting things that might be taking a bunch of battery hits on your machine and making your Linux box not so great with the battery life.
You bet. That's it.
There's things you can do to combat that. So we've got that coming up in the second half of the show. Plus, in the news segment today, we're going to talk about the big stories of the week, plus some big news from Valve. But I think the story that both you and I are looking forward to talking about the most is, quote unquote, Ubuntu is adding ads by default to 12.10.
Otherwise known as Amazon Gate.
Yeah, so we'll be... Really? Is that a thing?
It is now.
All right, I like that. Okay. So we'll be talking about that during the news segment. But Matt, right now, up first, it's time to do our picks for this week.
All right.
Are you ready for my runs?
I'm ready for our picks. Let's roll.
Check out this bad mamma jamma. It comes right out of IBM Research. This IBM Research wristwatch runs Linux.
You know what that reminds me of? Remember back in the day when you'd have the calculator watches and you were one of the cool kids if you had one? That's what that reminds me of, but it's cooler. It's using less power.
And by cool kids, you mean...
Well, yeah,
our peer
geeks.
group.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This thing has an OLED Linux watch, so it's got, a screen which to display the Linux interface on it. It has, it's primarily a yellow screen, but that's okay.
That's okay.
The whole screen width is 0.87 inches and 0.65 inches high, so you're not getting a ton of real estate, but again, a wristwatch.
But do you really want a ton of real estate on your wrist?
You get a 640 by 480 monochrome display.
It's not bad. I'm liking that.
It looks
It looks really... I would wear that.
It does actually look really cool.
I would totally wear that.
And the thing I like about it is it's predominantly a watch, and then primarily, and then secondarily it does other things. Like you've seen people take I forget what type of iPod it was, but people were taking iPods and making them watches.
Right.
But the screen turns off. So if the screen turns off on your watch, you might as well just use your smartphone.
Yeah, that's kind of a problem, right?
Yeah, so this, with the OLED...
well, and power consumption, that thing's got to be using squat.
Yeah, exactly. So it's running... Yeah, it's really cool. And we have
good contrast.
Link in the show notes, too, if you want to check out a video clip of it running. It's I don't know. I mean, come on, it's fun.
I mean, it's why not, right? Again, better than calculator watch.
Yeah, I mean, why not run Linux and everything from your watch to your desktop?
Definitely.
All right, Matt. Well, I have a very, very, very good Android pick for anyone out there who is concerned about location privacy on Android.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I also have, you brought this one this week.
I got some goodies.
A good desktop app pick, so I'm looking forward to that. All right, Matt, before we do that, though, we need to say good morning and hello and thank you to the fine folks over at GoDaddy.com. It's GoDaddy, and good morning, Danica. Danica has been texting me back and forth, and she's in the market for a laptop, and of course, Danica... She's a savvy consumer. I'm sure she's going to be getting a System 76.
Sweet.
And she's decided she's going to write up make a whole blog about it.
Nice.
Why not, right?
Okay,
danicasnewlaptop.com. So check it out. Well, I don't know if it's ready yet. I probably shouldn't have revealed that. She might change it now. She might change it now. But you know what she's doing, Matt? She's going to save herself some cash when she's checking out. She's using the code 599 Linux. That means she's going to get the .com for $5.99.
$5.99, you say? That's not bad.
$5, dude. If you had an inkling for a .com, something for the holidays, for a family get together, so you got.
I actually have a domain coming up for renewal.
You could do that. We have some great codes, and we also we have some codes that they've renewed them. They were going to expire, and they've saw such great response to them. They're renewing them. So if you're going to do like a renewal, if you've got like me, I've got 7 domains I'm renewing.
Yeah.
If you use the code GO20OFF6,
nice.
GO20OFF6, you'll save 20%.
Oh, and if you're doing a bulk of domains, that's the way to go.
Yeah. So if you're going to do something like that, if you're doing a .com, use $5.99 Linux. You'll get the .com for $5.99.
Nice.
It's perfect for like a family blog or something like that you're just throwing up for the holidays and you don't want to spend a ton of money on it. Or if you've got something you're just trying out, or heck, if you're if you're making a big move.
I got the Linux book that needs to be renewed, actually. So
there you go.
I need to do that, or actually, I need to
is
do
it a .com?
It is a .com. It's currently it's a dead page at this point, but I need to do something with it, and I've been holding on to it because I've lost some really good domains in the past.
That's a damn good domain.
It's oh yeah, I had Changing Media at one point.
That's a good domain too. But the LinuxBook.com.
Linux Book's not bad.
That's good. Yeah, so thank you to GoDaddy for sponsoring this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. Use our code 599Linux to get yourself a .com for $5.99.
Good deal.
Thank you, GoDads. All right, Matt, are you ready for this Android pick?
I'm ready. Let's roll.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
and I only got the icon peek earlier, so no worries.
Did you take a guess? Did you take a guess what it does?
It had an icon with the screen. I'm doing this based on just memory of the icon. I'm going to rub my temples here and get it all in focus. I'm going to say it looks like something with a screen that does something really important.
Wow. Well, that was
Vegas to me, but hey.
You're good at that.
I'm just Johnny Carson here. Okay.
It's called Instant EXIF Remover. Now, EXIF is, for those of you maybe heard that, but you're not recalling immediately what it is, that's the metadata that's associated with your camera pictures. So like time of picture, aperture, type of camera, location information.
Usage example maybe would be Flickr when it actually tells you what camera you're using. That's actually how it does that, perhaps?
Google Plus does it too.
Google Plus does it
if you go into the details. And at Twitter and all of these services, one of the things they're parsing from your pictures when you take it on your smartphone, because on, I think, all smartphones is turned on by default, I think.
I believe so.
Unless you turn off location services globally, is the GPS, longitude and latitude, where you took the picture.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's something that a lot of people overlook.
Yeah.
And so if you're posting a picture on Google Plus or Twitter, you might not actually intentionally be embedding your actual physical location. You might not mean to do that.
Well, especially if you're trying to be stealth.
Yeah. Right. Yeah,
that could be a problem.
Maybe you're called in sick from work, and then you're out.
Really? Yeah. You got the green screen at the where you're laying down in bed or whatever. Yeah, that doesn't work.
But I actually like having all that information.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I just for historical purposes.
Sure.
It's fun, and there's software out there you can throw all of these in, and they'll spit out all the places you've been on maps, and that's
parse
neat.
it out on something. Yeah. Okay.
But when I'm sharing it online, I don't know, maybe just for privacy's sake, or just don't need to put that out there. Maybe I want that information removed. So that's what EXIF Remover does. Is it's actually the neat part about it is you can use it as part of your attachment workflow. So if you're in Google Plus, if you're in Twitter, and you're attaching an image, you actually can use EXIF Remover as the image source. Then it goes and gets the images, removes all of the metadata, and puts it in the application you wanted to, but leaves the original in your library with all of the information.
Oh, I like that.
So it's just taking a copy, attaching that, and sending that off.
So it really gives you control over the privacy of your pictures.
So you can choose the ones you share to have all the information removed, but the ones you keep have all the information in them. And I think that's a nice balance for your own personal use, but then keeping your privacy when you share something online.
I'm liking it.
And why not check it out? It is a free app. It's called Instant EXIF Remover. You can find it, a link in the show notes, or just search for it on the Google Play Store, or a link in the chat room if you're watching live right now.
Sounds like a no-brainer to me.
We should say we do these shows live on Sundays at 10 a.m. Pacific over at jblive.tv. And you are welcomed and encouraged to join us in our live chat room. That's 1 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. UTC, jblive.tv for the video, or jblive.info. Come join the big show. Give us your feedback as we're doing this sucker. Yeah. And
And we have a lot of fun on Sundays.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Actually, the show is about how long? 2 hours? Well, we started
the live show. Yeah, the live show's got kind of that like pre-party, after-party thing going on.
And we have a bunch of fun in between segments.
Oh, yeah.
I get up and take a leak, and then Matt talks trash about me, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yep, you bet. It gets pretty wild.
Yeah. All right, Matt. Now, we've got a desktop pick this week that's actually more of a laptop pick, don't we?
Yes.
What is it, sir?
My pick this week is called Laptop Mode Tools.
Yes.
Not exactly the sexiest name in the world, but the functionality that you get for simply just installing the software is just dynamite.
Yeah.
It's called Get Better Battery Life with the new kernel.
It is almost remarkable that this isn't included by default.
Yeah, it's one of those things, because it's automatic, to me it is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I mean, at the very least, there should be a checkbox during the installation of major distributions that says, hey, man, you're running a notebook, do you want this? I mean, that should be an option, I think.
And what's great about it is laptop mode by default will be disabled whenever your laptop's plugged in.
That's right. Yeah, as soon as you plug it in, it actually will revert back to just regular mode. It won't, give you full power.
When you install it and you unplug, it'll automatically hamper things down like your drives and your USB ports to lower power modes. It'll scale your CPU more aggressively. It'll do a lot of things. It'll even manage the different power states of the PCI bus more efficiently when it's on.
And I would say it's definitely got a contrast to say like the Triple E applet or the Jupiter applet where it's just a full-on throttle. I'd say the throttling is very minimal. I'd say most of the action is just power consumption itself. That's where the meat and potatoes of it is, and it's fantastic. And I actually ran a power top.
You did? Oh, should we save that for the big segment?
Let's save that.
Because, we'll cover, I want to cover laptop mode a little more in the big power segment. And I think what we'll do is, so Matt took some screenshots to compare the power usage difference with laptop mode disabled.
Exactly.
And then he took it again with laptop mode enabled, and you can see the difference that it really makes.
It's a little more exciting than me just talking about it for you to actually see the words bad and good.
Yeah. So that's a good tease. Let's leave it at that. Okay. And we'll go through the config, and we'll show you a few areas you might want to look at with laptop if you really want to extend your battery.
Right.
Now, I've got another pick that kind of sandwiches up with this only on the opposite end.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Something that takes a ton of power.
No, it's cool.
But this is about performance this episode, so I thought this was a great excuse to squeeze this one in. And one of our community members, he goes by the name of Steve. I've been chatting with him a lot recently. Yeah. He's involved with this distribution, so I thought this is just a great one to pick. Yeah. It's called Overclockix.
Ooh, I like it. I love that.
You can probably guess by the name. It's a distribution. Nice. It's a Debian-based live distro. I think it might even be based off of Knoppix that comes pre-bundled with tools to overclock. Or maybe a better way to state it is tools for the overclocker. So you overclock your machine, the traditional way through the BIOS. This comes with a lot of burn-in tools, testing tools, reliability tools, performance benchmarking tools, and it's all in a live environment that's really easy to get rolling. And they have all this stuff pre-set up in menus for you. And
so not only allows you to overclock, but it allows you to actually gauge how far you can push things and actually see what's going on behind the scenes. I like that.
Test and validate. Yeah, and that is really slick because
I like that.
Because you do these kind of things. You spend hours and hours getting it feels like a recipe of just the right amount of voltage increase and just the right amount of memory speed increase, all this different stuff. And then when you're done, you really want to actually see if was there something. Did I get some sort of result for all of that work?
Or are you potentially putting something in danger because you don't have that data in front of you? Are you use this versus waiting for the smell test of something burning,
or something crashing when you're right in the middle of an important. So it's Overclockix, and you can go to overclockix.com, or we'll have a link in the show notes. It looks like a really fun distro.
Fantastic. It's what a great way to actually get to know your hardware too. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. So a lot of fun there. Now, all right, Matt. Now before we roll out of here, I want to give a nice mention for our Linux Action Show subreddit. This, not only is it one of the greatest resources for the show, and it's something that you and I are on frequently, so people want to get in contact with the show. It's probably one of the best ways to go there. And it's full of great people who want to help people get through stuff and figure stuff out. But it is quite literally, honestly, one of the best sources for Linux news on the internet.
I'd say so.
I mean, in terms of consolidating and collecting what's really important and relevant, and rational discussion too.
I think really the discussion's definitely rational, and I also like the fact that the moderation pretty much takes care of itself. The best always rises to the top, and rest takes care of itself.
So if you want to get a story in the show, or have a vote on what makes it in, or ask a question, this is a great place to do it. linuxactionshow.reddit.com. Go in there, sign up, become a part of that community, and vote on the things you like, submit stories you like or questions. And often, I think almost, unless I forget, it's been for the last few weeks at least, I usually start a thread in there as like a feedback thread for these episodes. So if you've got just a comment you want to make, one of the great spots where there's a lot of active conversation is in the subreddit's feedback thread for every single episode that I
maybe you have a question or something we mentioned you want to know more about. It's a good place to do it.
And the other thing is it helps us with prep, because if we can kind of, when we're looking for feedback and topics, if we can kind of focus on one spot, email and the Reddit are kind of the best ways to get your feedback into the show.
Always.
So, yeah. All right, Matt. Well, let's do the news.
So, what's new in the news?
Matt, your question couldn't be better timed because we've got a full news docket. Our top story this week, Steam has somewhat been announced for release in mid-October.
In October, you say?
For the Linux platform, Matt. This actually came from a Left 4 Dead blog post where they're talking about they're integrating Steam Workshop in with Left 4 Dead. Now, Steam Workshop is a place for community members to create content for these games.
Cool.
Steam is going to be taking some of these the higher rated community content and actually integrating it into the actual Left 4 Dead gameplay.
Okay.
So like stuff the community really likes will be making its way into the main game when you play online, which is really neat.
I like it.
And they say, by the way, this great new feature is going to need some beta testers. And they say all of this will be available not just on the PC and Mac, but also for Linux users starting in the middle of next month and rolling out from there. We'll have more details when we get closer to launch.
That's exciting. So it's exciting.
To me, if I am to put on Mr. Interpreter hat here,
okay,
I think it's interesting that this announcement is coming from the Left 4 Dead team.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. Although maybe that's by design.
I think at this point the Steam store client's ready to go, and I think I think they're saying, okay, Left 4 Dead, the release for Linux is it's your baby now. Once the game's ready, we're ready to ship the client.
Makes sense.
And so they're
and
kind
truly,
of driving it now.
You're going for the game. You're not necessarily going for the client, right?
I mean who's gonna? Nobody's gonna buy anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's interesting. The Left 4 Dead team seems to be the ones to watch for indications of when we're actually going to see something. If I were to put on my interpreter hat, which I did not, so I might have that.
No, I think you're right. I'm gonna lean in that direction.
All right, now while we are talking about video games, I want to talk about the one of the stories this week that I'm a very happy boy. In fact, we gave away 2 copies of it this week on the faux show, and we're giving away another copy next week. The Humble Indie Bundle number 6 is out, and I think this is one of the best bundles we've seen in a while.
Yes, easily.
And we've gotten some great games ported over to Linux thanks to this one. I bought this one myself. Here's the games that I'm really excited about the most: Dust Force and Torchlight. Space Pirates also looks really good, although I haven't gotten it to play yet on my machine for some reason.
Now, Space Pirates, I'm not familiar with that one. Is that any relation to that wonderful 80s movie with the...
Oh, I don't know.
That would be I would so play that.
I haven't played it yet, but it's got a pretty interesting graphical effect.
Yeah, that's ooh.
Yeah,
that's pretty. Yeah.
So this is Torchlight right here, and Torchlight is... some of these games are, by the way, using Unity to come over here, and there's
it's gorgeous.
There's been talk that the porting has gone so well that other game makers are very seriously now looking at, and I'm not talking Unity the desktop.
Right.
And in fact, we just saw there's a Kickstarter project right now that had Linux listed as a stretch goal.
Oh, interesting.
That after seeing the news and talking to the developers of the Humble Indie Bundle, decided that, well, actually, that looks straightforward enough that we're just going to make it part of our regular goal.
Oh, it makes sense. It's an untapped market. I've been saying that since the beginning of this whole thing really starting with. I think this is exciting. I think that if we can see more game makers get that, it's like, you guys are hungry for people to buy your games. Hello, we're over here.
Well, so here's the interesting thing about the Unity 3D engine. This is really a topic that we've covered on Quarter Radio, and Michael covered it in better detail than I'm about to on Quarter Radio, but I believe that portions of Unity require mono to actually work. So just as mono is kind of really on its way out of the Linux desktop, we're starting to see some really compelling video games come that might actually be requiring mono. Now, I don't know if they're using mono, like prepackaged up in there, like mono is just all stuffed up in it, kind of like a turkey. Yeah. Or if you actually have to have mono separately on your machine.
Well, hopefully it's something they can segue away from if they need to, with any luck.
Yeah, well, maybe.
Hopefully.
But we covered that particular element of it in more detail on Quarter Radio. But it's kind of an interesting result of this Unity success.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Humble Indie Bundle, they've just passed $1 million for the 6th bundle.
Wow.
Yeah, right. As of they went.
Remember, folks, there's no money in Linux gaming.
Right, and the funny thing is they only launched on Tuesday, and this is Sunday that we're talking about this. So they made They made that $1 million. They made that $1 million over the week. So the average purchase price is only $5.82, right? Because it's set your own.
Wow.
The Linux average, however, is $9.88. Once again, for the 6th Humble Bundle in a row,
unbelievable,
is wedging out the Mac and
that is
and
crazy.
Windows.
That was yesterday. It looks like. Okay, yeah.
It just goes to show you that the Linux audience is hungry for them video games, Matt.
Great metric, game makers pay attention.
And they are paying attention.
Got our wallets out. Got our wallets out.
I believe they are paying.
They're getting there. They're definitely getting there.
Oh, the Linux average is down to $9.95.
Oh,
well, we might be doing some more now. See, we're going to do another humble. We're going to do another Humble Bundle giveaway on the faux show. So, and we buy that as Linux. And I'm paying when I bought it, I paid $25. So I'm trying to bring the average up for the Linux folks.
Well, and you just look at their little pie chart there, and you've got a fair size competitive.
I know, right?
With the Mac, yeah.
Because of the willingness to spend, it looks,
interesting.
The Mac, first of all, the Macs, with the exception of the Pro line, are not exceptional gaming machines.
Yeah, they're too integrated. Everything's into your monitor,
and even when they ship, like there's not a single Apple doesn't sell a current machine with a current GPU.
That's true.
With maybe the MacBook, I don't know what the Retina has in it, and so they're not fantastic gaming machines.
It's just not what they're built for, man.
So I think when you look at the willingness to spend there, and also Mac users have an App Store mentality where $1.99 is quite a bit for a game.
It is.
And when you look at those two contributing factors, and you look at the willingness to spend on the Linux side, I think game makers are looking at that. You're seeing people really deliver here. So I think
so.
Valve's timing couldn't be better.
Smart stuff. Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait to see this happen and unfold before our eyes.
I know it. Yeah. All right, Matt, while we're talking about video games, you can't go too far without talking about drivers.
Our drivers.
So some good news from the NVIDIA camp. We'll start with the good news, then we'll move over to the bad news.
Okay.
So the good news is that Optimus support, which we've talked about before, where you can switch between a lower power GPU and a higher performance GPU on the fly, works under the Windows operating system made by the Microsoft Corporation from Redmond, Washington.
Right.
Does not work under the Linux operating system made by the Linus Torvalds and a large group of contributors. And so after Linus's rant, however, an NVIDIA engineer actually stepped up and started getting things working. They've partnered with somebody who's working at Canonical. So
I'm going
to screw up his name.
We're seeing a lot of that lately, aren't we?
I'm going to screw up his name. Martin, M-A-R-R-M-A-A-R-T-E-N. Martin is currently employed by Canonical, and he's hoping to have early support for integrated Optimus switching in Ubuntu 12.10.
Nice.
And then I would assume, because this is work that's being done at the Xorg level, at the DDX driver level, and at the Randor level, these changes aren't specific to Ubuntu, but the Canonical rep is working with the NVIDIA folks directly. And
and this benefits all Linux users. And to really differentiate this, because it will come up, this is not like Bumblebee, which is frankly a hack. It's convenient. It's great that it's out there, but it's not the cleanest way of doing it. What we're talking about here is an official, sanctioned, appropriate, true way of getting this to work.
One that's supported by the OEM, which is
one that'll actually not break.
And one that hardware manufacturers can actually ship a product based around. All right.
Yep.
Let's talk about this is an interesting presentation, I guess I'll put it.
Yeah, we'll call it that.
Now, this title is Open Source Graphic Drivers Need Better Security. The open source Linux graphic driver stack could benefit from greater security, says Martin Piers and Timothy Reviere. They talked yesterday at XDC 2012 about the graphic stack security and its current shortcurings. They say there's already some safeguards in place within the Linux graphic stack that Xorg manages, but much more could be done. They talk about all of this during their video presentation, which I haven't had a chance to watch. But I thought this would be an interesting. This is an interesting angle because these vulnerabilities could lead to root level privileges.
That's true.
And with X11 being network capable, you got to wonder where that could go.
It can open up some very nasty possibilities. Yeah. And with that, from leads to doubt, and doubt leads to evil.
So Phronix has both of these videos from their talk posted. They look really, they look great because these are just the straight up videos. Like if you were attending the conference, this is what you'd see. They're not doctored up. They're not, big productions. And so anyways, you can go find the videos to that in the show notes.
It looks like about an hour's worth of content, so it'd be worth watching.
Yeah. All right, Matt.
All right. Okay.
Now, this is something that's been sent into the show a few times. People have been asking. I've been waiting for an official statement from Aaron.
Okay.
And so we have an update on the Vivaldi tablet. And it kind of depends on how you want to look at things.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So he calls it a small update. What I love about Aaron is a small update is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 paragraphs. So,
he's being thorough.
Yeah, it's a small update.
That's okay.
What he goes on to lay out is, they really ran into issue after issue with the Vivaldi tablets, from changing hardware between runs and GPL blockers and all these vendors that just didn't care about them because of their volume levels. And Aaron talks about how he kind of got to a point where he was ready just to throw it all in and say it's not worth it.
It'd be frustrating.
Yeah. But however, things are looking up. But it's essentially at this point, I would say it's a reset at best. Vivaldi's on hold. They think they might have a new hardware partner they could look at. And I think a lot of people are taking this as it's very bleak because they're kind of back at square one.
Right.
But the reality is a lot of lessons were learned in building a store, in building a UI for the tablet, in creating the services and software around all of that. In that first run, they learned a lot about vendor management and the relationships and a lot of the things you need to quantify up front. And all of that, if they do continue forward, if they do still have the motivation to do that, all of that can be applied to another piece of hardware.
Well, that's exactly right. I'm also hoping that their takeaway from this is they've learned something about jumping into the marketplace and actually what they're looking at as far as competition, and what they may not have perceived as competition initially turns out that it is.
Right.
How are you differentiating yourself? You don't have to be the biggest, fastest, most awesome. You just have to have something that makes people say, "Ooh, that's something I really want."
Well,
something about it that really pops out at them.
I think what perfectly defines what you're talking about would be the Nexus 7 and the success of the Nexus 7 when compared. So I bought that Spark Vivaldi tablet. I went out and got it from the Chinese manufacturer. I did an in-depth look on it. The C78 or whatever it's called.
Right. Okay.
Looking at that piece of hardware, which I still own, compared to something like the Nexus 7, I mean, if Aaron and the Make Live Play initiative, if they were to ship that today, it would just be an embarrassment.
It would. But I would even go back to say that you can get away with less resources, less power, less whatever it may be, as long as it's got that differentiating, just something that makes it really stand out. I've seen, less power, less fame.
Well, look at the one laptop per child. That's a perfect example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Find your niche and own it. Don't try and compete in this big market space. It's not a bad idea, but really step back and look at what's missing. What feature or niche or what area can you really nail this out on? And I think there's hope for it.
Yeah, he kind of sounds like he did some soul searching, and he sums it up. He says, in fact, the question I had to stare down a few times is this even worth still doing? In times when things look completely bleak and you've just had your most recent negative answer handed to you, that question pretty much finds you without you even looking for it. I found my answer. I've found that my answer has shifted over the last few months. For a brief period of time, I'll be honest. No, it's not worth doing was the answer. I hated that answer, though. It felt unnecessarily wrong, so I dug more, and the combination of seeing that the new tablet space is still very much open, with all sorts of speculation about Android's position and Apple's ability to keep that grip, and the rise of Amazon and others, and the reaffirmation that if we don't make open devices, who will? I feel like it's more important than ever that we keep going. After all, someone came back to me and started their sales pitch with, and here's our source code. That's a big change in the conversation.
It is, but it's also going back to, I think it was the Open Moco, was the open source phone before Android really took off. That was this big thing that, it's going to be... When you're targeting a group of hobbyists that are as fickle as can be, you're dancing with the devil. You got to look bigger. You got it. Maybe. I mean, it's important to have the source code, but look at the bigger end benefit.
See, I think you're kind of there's a bit of a contradiction there because I think the tablet space is being pretty well defined right now, and one of the things you can do to differentiate is be that open platform. That can be your differentiating factor.
Right. No, and I think that has value, but it has to be put into English so that people that maybe aren't part of a centric group can expand out a little further. Like someone like me who knows what open source is, cares about it, and wants to do it. I'm not going to buy a tablet because it's open. I don't care. I want it to do certain things. I want it to do something different than the other guys. It's even within that niche, people need to give a rip.
I almost argue that it's like the early PC, where the first PCs made by IBM and whatnot were very locked down, and they had to go into a clean room and make a clean room BIOS.
Right.
And then then we really saw the hobbyist market.
Yeah.
But they weren't trying to deliver a PC to people who felt religiously passionate that the PC platform needed to be open, right? They were just trying to make something that hobbyists could put together and make their own thing out of. And we need that in the tablet space.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's going to be completely locked down and dominated.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And the question is can Aaron and his group be that? I don't know.
I think so. I think just it's like to give you an example, looking at any shortcomings a tablet has. One thing I would love is something that where I can with a tablet I can have better collaboration options, maybe some sort of functionality that doesn't already exist within the existing tablet market, whatever it may be, whether it be hardware, software.
One thing that I think if they refined it some more, that you this is maybe tell me if this is kind of what you're getting at, is they had this real concept of task-based workspaces. So I have work mode for my tablet, I have home mode for my tablet, I have photo mode for my tablet, and you would switch between these contexts, and the tablet would suggest different things based on what context you're in. So like if you're searching for something in photo mode, instead of listing your applications, it would list your photos. And if you're searching for something in business mode, it might find emails as the top of the list. And that's interesting. Yeah,
exactly. So that's a great example of, if that's the direction they want to go in, just as an example, go for it. I mean, just latch on to something really different. Open is it's important.
It doesn't go well in a box.
It's important, but it's not sexy. It's just, I'm sorry, but there's a reason why certain things outrank other things. Open is not sexy. It's important. It's really important, but it's not attractive. It's just, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
To have that longevity in this sexy world, you do need that openness. I do believe that, but you got to make it more attractive.
I agree with you.
Sex it up a little bit.
Well put.
Yeah.
Make it hot.
Make it hot.
As
I want to see a red dress on that sucker.
All right. Well, speaking of something that's got people red hot, Matt. This has got to probably be the big story of the week in terms of just brouhaha. In terms of brouhaha, Ubuntu 12.10 to include Amazon affiliate deals by default.
Well, I have two initial thoughts on it. First of all, not a big deal. Honestly, it's called remove it. But anyway.
All right. And, okay.
And then another thing that I'll get into later on in this is that I don't think that they're going. Well, we'll let that go. But I'm just going to say I don't think they're going in a direction that's going to accomplish what they're hoping for it to accomplish.
Oh, interesting.
They're hoping the only way Amazon works integrated into Unity is if you're buying music or buying TV shows or movies. Those are things that are basically almost bringing an iTunes-like experience into Unity. That I care about. Okay. And that's something they can make money on. If I'm typing in the word empathy...
So an ecosystem.
If I'm typing in software titles, it becomes way annoying. It just,
So you've used it?
Yeah, I played around.
Yeah, so did I. And I think that's something to keep in mind is a lot of the people that are talking about this out there have not used it.
Yeah.
Both Matt and I have it. I'm loading it up right here.
Yeah. I mean, best case scenario, it can be a little irritating, but it's so easily removed. Who cares? I mean, honestly.
So here's my thoughts So I want to talk about this from a couple of different angles. First of all, so here is if you're watching the video version, here's Ubuntu 12.10 loaded up. And I have a song in my Rhythm Box music library called Terminal.
Okay.
The Terminal. Right?
The Terminal. Okay.
So I will type Terminal in the dash here.
All right.
And you see first shows up is the actual application Terminal. And then after the next line are sales suggestions, which I found interesting because you would think the next thing in the results should be my MP3 song on my local hard drive called Terminal, right? So the problem I have a bit is it is a little spammy because clutter takes away from the experience.
Well, it does. And wouldn't that be better served just to segment it out for music and movies for Amazon, but then when you go to applications, pull from your paid application sources from your own store? Yeah. How awesome would that be to say Terminal and be like, hey, here's a paid app that's in the Ubuntu Center that has something to do with Terminal. I mean, it has some relation to it. At least I might care.
Okay,
right?
So there's that. So there's that element, and I want to get to that. So save those thoughts. Let's talk about what they're actually doing here. So what they're doing is when you search in the dash in Unity, the results will come back with your local stuff, and then affiliate related links. And if you click on one of them, it doesn't actually so much take you to Amazon's page as it. Oh, I guess this one did. Okay, so the one I tried earlier took me to Ubuntu One page. But you see up in the URL up there, it's tagged with a Canonical affiliate link.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were to buy this, Canonical would make somewhere between 4 to 10% of the revenue from that, just like the Jupiter Broadcasting affiliate system works. And the idea, I believe, here would be that Canonical the theory would be this could be a small little back channel revenue generator for us that keeps just a little baseline of money coming in from people using the desktop.
If it was effective, yeah.
Do you have a problem with that concept?
I don't. The only issue that I have for other, let me preface it and say this. Personally, because I understand it, I have no issue with it, because if I did, I would remove it. That being said, Joe Average, who may not understand it but has severe privacy concerns, needs the option during Ubuntu installation to check or uncheck that box, because the fact it is sending data back and forth.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's not personal data, but
No.
but for the hyper cookie clearing type folks, you know, that are really concerned about it. And again, I'm not one of them, but I know folks that are, and I want to speak on their behalf for them. That is, it's a fair point. It is this is a desktop that you know, I think it's important to make folks aware of it. Don't do something like this and expect folks not to care. I think people will be understanding if they know that it's coming, this is happening, this is what's going on. Just be forthcoming. That's all.
I mean, 12.10 is not a long-term support release, so Canonical introduces these things and then like sees what the reaction is and then tries to refine them by the time 14.04 or whatever it's going to be comes around.
I mean, you know, do I think it's tinfoil hat time? No, but I think a discussion and a clarification for folks is a wise thing to do during the installation, not post the beta, having Mark talk about it later on. No, this is damage control should never have been an issue. You know, it really shouldn't have.
So damage control, though, they're doing better. I mean, in the past, I've come on the show.
Oh yeah, they are, but it should have never been a damage. There should never have been an issue. This is so avoidable, and this is something I do for a living. Is I prevent damage control from being necessary. This is something I have expertise in. This was totally not needed.
This is typical of Canonical. They often this often happens. They often they do things that seem obvious if they preface it correctly and they prepare people correctly. People understand it, and then typically. Like the last time they did a big brouhaha, Shuttleworth didn't post anything until like the news cycle had time to go completely crazy, and so this time he actually got something out there before the weekend even got in, so people had to read it. Well, so that was decent.
And behind the scenes, what's happening when there's a delay like that is generally even someone high up the ladder like that does have to speak to the people that handle spin and PR. They do. They need to make sure that what they're about to say isn't going to bite them in the butt, so they do get okay from their underlings in that area. So Mark probably had to speak to PR and say, "Hey, I'm thinking of responding this way. Do you want to refine it? Yes, great, whatever. Let's pop it out there." So it's all this extra labor and work that was totally unnecessary.
I want to play devil's advocate here for a minute. So let's get to the issue. I want to tell you why I think it's bad, and then I'll tell you why I think it's good.
Okay.
Here's why it's bad. Number one is it could impact people like us.
Yeah,
right. This will likely override our affiliates and a lot of our users run Ubuntu and could actually make a negative impact in Jupiter Broadcasting's revenue.
I did not think of that.
And many other affiliates that are out there as well.
Yeah.
And as the platform, you know, we ride essentially on top of the Ubuntu platform when somebody's downloading our videos or using a web browser. And if they implement something at the base level, there is a potential it could impact us. Who knows, right?
Yeah, we don't know.
The other thing but you know what? As somebody who makes a significant portion of my survival off of that, I'm not that worked up about that, because that's just the reality of the world out there. And I think our users who really care will find ways around it. And it is easily removed. I mean, we're talking it's like an app get remove shopping lens or something, and it's gone.
And that was my whole argument in the first place, is that those in the know, not because they're concerned about the security concerns, it's just not effective. It's not offering an effective experience. I think it's going to be removed anyway, and it will become a moot issue for folks like us.
This is the primary issue. Now, if this was happening when kind of like it does already in 12.04, if this was happening on the music and video lenses, much less offensive.
Oh, it not only I want that. I want that. I want that Pandora experience when I'm searching for a song and be like, you know, I like stuff like this, or I like other songs by these guys. Crazy idea, right?
On the home screen, it's not only is it spammy, but they're not good results. I have not once had a single result that was good. Like, there might have been 8 results and maybe 1 that was okay. I just, some of them took me to the Ubuntu One music store. Some of them take me directly to Amazon, and I'm not impressed by the experience at all. I think it's a substandard experience. And where Canonical often gets trashed for with Unity is, oh, you're copying the Mac.
Right.
You're ripping that off from the Mac, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. Well, let's be pragmatists here. If Windows 7 does something right, like, you know, your file browser locks up a lot, that's cool. Or if the Mac does something right and you want to integrate those into your desktop because it makes the overall desktop experience better, that's not necessarily a bad idea. But if you look at every element of Mac OS X that people actually like, It's wherever Apple was minimalist, wherever they withheld, wherever they designed just as much as they had to, but they didn't overdo something.
Right.
Where you hear people freak out is where they go skeuomorphic and they put leather on some crap, or they put some wood paneling on some crap, and they overjuice it up. This is what Canonical has done here. They haven't been inspired correctly. They haven't gone minimal, and the primary issue with the homepage of the Dash, it is such a core function to the Unity desktop that if I as a user think it's spammy, or if I think it's been slowed down, or I think it's inaccurate, or I think it's confusing, or I think it's too much noise, or I think it makes it hard to find something, which it does all of those things right now, then I'm going to avoid using it. Now, if you want me to use the platform and all the innovations you're putting into it, because by the way, there's some great features. There's some great new features. Like, watch what happens when I right-click this S. Boom. It goes out there, gets me the info, pulls the screenshot. It gives me the info. I can launch it from right here. I can uninstall it. I really like some of the new features in Dash, but I'm not going to use this crap if it's full of spam.
Well, and here's something that occurred to me just a moment ago, is that I get let me say this. They know it looks spammy. Here's what I think's happening, because I've seen this in affiliate marketing for years. They know with Amazon cookies that once they get you can click on something purely based on the picture. Oh, that's weird. What's that? Boom, your cookie. You're going to go in there and probably end up buying something, because that's what the Amazon experience does. I suspect they know full well that when you're typing in an application name and it comes up with some weird thing, that the odds by plain numbers that you're going to be Amazon cookied, and you're probably going to, which means they get paid. So I'm almost wondering if this was very much a money decision and not a user experience decision. And if that's the case, that was a mistake.
Okay. So
that is something that I'm beginning to fall that direction with, and it's still a mistake.
Now, in terms of speed, I have noticed in my testing that it does definitely return the local results immediately. So local results, so let's, what could I search for? How about system? So local results return instantly, then suggested shopping results will as they become available. But the problem is, I don't know if you saw that, Matt, is they eliminated some of my other choices in order to display the shopping results.
And that backs up with what I'm thinking, that they want you to look at those pictures and say, ooh, what's that? And actually click into it. And even worse than that, another functionality issue they have is they're not caching this stuff. This stuff isn't updated every second of the day. Cache this stuff. Cache the imagery. I mean, you don't have to cache the actual links, but cache the imagery, for goodness sakes.
And so,
it's so easy
the
to do.
Unity Dash has a maximized mode where you can actually go full screen. What about on the I would say the appropriate balance would be this is enabled on the video and on the music tabs by default. It's only enabled on the home dash if you're maximized, because then there's more real estate than you need.
That would be okay. I would be okay with that. And then they still get their cake and eat it too. But I truly believe this is definitely this is not something to do for usability. This is totally a money issue with them. And I get that, but it's defeating the purpose. They would make more money in the long run if they just did music and movies. I mean this for their benefit. I support them doing this because I think they do need funding.
Like, look at this search result here. I searched for system and I got Brother Toner. I don't have a Brother printer. Why am I getting that?
Right.
I got HDMI cables.
Completely random. And the algorithm.
What the hell is this?
I don't even know what that is. But there, what'd you just do? You just cookied yourself in Amazon right there.
I know.
That's
This is some sort of oil of Olay skin cleaning brush, because I searched for the system monitor in my dash.
I mean, don't those clearly go together, right? I mean, it's all about the oil of Olay. So yeah.
Okay, now
they've got what now you're cooking. You got a 24-hour cookie you're sitting on now, and
now I think thankfully I think Rikai mentioned in the chat room that our affiliate extension will
it override? Yeah. Well, then beautiful. But for Joe Average that is just doing this on their own, that's the issue.
Now I want to play the other side of the fence. Okay. Assuming they get this cleaned up and they make it better and they don't make it look like it's trash.
Yeah.
Here's what it does. And this is why I think as users, first of all, I think the visceral reaction, oh my gosh, spending, this is commercial, it's bad.
I don't have a problem with that at all.
No, we've got to get past that.
I want more of it, but I want it done in an effective way.
And here's the thing. Here's what Canonical is funding. They are funding the eventual Androidification of Linux in a sense, only not to such an extreme. I'm not talking incompatibilities between distros and things like that, but they are going to move in a way that it makes them a viable target for commercial applications, and honestly addressing a lot of the complaints that Miguel de Casa brought up regarding compatibility breakage and a lot of those other things. They're working to fix that. They're working to solve that. Some of that involves spending some money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And right now, Canonical makes money through their support contracts, through their OEM partner deals. Yep. And I imagine they make some revenue from Ubuntu One subscriptions and store sales. And there's probably other ways that they make money through Ubuntu that I'm not really thinking of. But off the top of my head, I can't think of a significant source of income revenue from desktop users.
Right, and that's a core thing. They need it to be, and it needs to be passive. They don't need to spend all their time on it.
So if desktop users aren't generating revenue, then from a business standpoint, they just simply, at the end of the day, they can't be the priority.
Yeah.
Whatever generates revenue is the priority. If we as users can become a relevant issue on that balance sheet, if we are a line item that represents a significant portion of Canonical's income, then it is going to remain in their best interest to continue to invest in the end user desktop to make it the best experience for desktop users, not the best experience for their commercial support contract customers, or their best experience for Dell, or the best experience for System 76, but the best experience for just everybody out there that's using the desktop. And the only way to really do that from a business standpoint, and you got to have a business to make this type of distribution, because they got to go out there, they got to go to those events, they got to make these trips to Valve, they got to do these kinds of partnerships that we're seeing with the Unity developers. All this kind of stuff takes money, and the only way to get them to treat that as a priority is if the desktop end product is generating them revenue in the first place. This might be a somewhat passive way to do that. As a person who relies on affiliates, I think there's a lot of great things to an affiliate system, because you're getting yourself something. So it's sort of like a reward system where not only are you getting yourself something, but you're also supporting something you believe in and you want to contribute to. And it is anonymous in the sense that it's, yes, I see what's sold, but I don't know. I don't have any idea. I don't even see an IP of who bought it, right?
Yeah, no, the privacy concerns are pretty minimal. But,
it's good in that sense too. So there are a lot of benefits to that I like. I don't want to be spammed with it. Like for example, take the Jupiter Broadcasting website. We put the links at the bottom. We put the links at the bottom. We don't put them all over. We don't make pop-ups come up when you hover over an item that can be found on Amazon with a little buy now, Right. But that's what Canonical's doing. Canonical is doing the equivalent of website pop-ups and in-your-face ads. That's why the headlines are being ad shipped by default, because it's overdone. Yeah. If they scale it back, I think as a pragmatist, if we meet somewhere in the middle, there's something that can work out here.
Well, if you look at why AdSense was successful, because frankly, it's not attractive. It's just text. The reason why it worked is simply because it was relevant. If I'm going into it, and I mean, because once the first time I go into the Dash and I have a sense of discovery, my view is going to, as an end user, is going to change like that, because all of a sudden I discovered something cool and new and something I'm telling my buddy about. If instead I'm being pitched oil of Olay when I'm searching for my software, I'm not down with that. And that's the differentiator. That's where they're screwing up. Is they're scraping from the wrong areas. They're not planning this out well at all.
Or returning fewer results, but more accurate results. Because then people have less choice they have to make, and they see, and wouldn't that make sense? What if when I searched for the terminal, I got the terminal application, I got my music that says the terminal, and then maybe I got 2 or 3 track suggestions.
Right.
And one of them maybe is a music track called The Terminal.
Well, and where they're screwing themselves, and it's not their fault, but it's a total newbie mistake, is I think they're probably relying on Amazon's data to return the results, and that's a big mistake because it's very rarely that accurate. It just isn't that great. And I imagine it's an API thing. What I would do if I was them is I would do Amazon Music and Movies, TV, whatever. That's going to do well, and then I would then begin to build up slowly, even if it is just free software. Continue to run this functionality in your own software center. That's where, frankly, the fact they're doing this with Amazon is so dumb to me, because they're trying to build up an infrastructure with their own software anyway, and in their own software center. Why would you do this with Amazon data when you should be working on your own, so that you can get applications into your software center? I mean, that was the whole point all along. So it just doesn't. There's no value there. It doesn't make any sense.
And as Mark, we'll get to Mark covered this, Mark Shuttleworth, but as Nate W points out in the chat room, 12.10 is still in. This is
it's beta 1. Yeah, and all my griping is it's easily fixed with a remove, so it's not a big deal. But I care because I do care. I want this to work for them. I want this to be successessful. Yeah, that's why I'm vocal.
You got
not because I want it removed. I just want it to be effective.
So should we cover Mark's damage control before we?
All right. Let's get into that.
Mr. Shuttleworth, taking to the blog. Here's some questions that were put to him that he answered. Why are you putting ads in Ubuntu? Since we're not putting ads in Ubuntu, we're integrating online scope results into the home lens of the Dash. There you go, Matt. Online scope results. I don't want to search for Amazon. I don't want to search for Amazon for the terminal. Use Super A. You can tell Unity exactly what you want to search. Let's try that. Let's go over here. He says use Super A.
So rather than let's think about that. Rather than use a button, let's do a twist of your keys and no, come on. That's an excuse. That's a PR spin.
Well, nothing's happening.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just, you know, even if it did work, which it's not, but
No, it's still doing it. Super A hasn't. I mean, there's no difference here. I think. I mean, my understanding was supposed to make it search the applications, but it's not.
But I mean, but seriously, so rather than the convenience of a button, we're going to make you take an extra step to avoid the ads. This I've seen companies do this. This doesn't work. You can't do this.
So he says. So then the next question is, I want to control what is searched in the home lens. And he says, I'm pretty sure that by default, by Ubuntu 14.04 LTS, we'll have all the kinks worked out. Till then, come along for the ride and stick with 12.04 LTS.
And that's fair. I have no problem with that. But that should, again, prevention, folks, prevention.
This is just a money-making scheme, says one questioner. No. And Mark responds, we've picked Amazon as a first place to start because most of our users are also regular users of Amazon. That's why we.
It's not like they're throwing ClickBank at you here. I mean, come on.
And it pays to make your Amazon journey get off to a faster start. Okay, there's some truth to that. Why are you telling Amazon what I'm searching for? Was a question posed to him. We are not telling Amazon what you're searching for. Your anonymity. Anonymity?
Anonymity?
Anonymity? Your Amanama Bing Bang is preserved because we handle the query on your behalf. Don't trust us? Well, we have root. You do not trust us with your data already. You do trust us with your data already. I don't know what that's kind of an ominous thing to say. You don't trust us? Well, we have root. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean? What does that mean? You don't trust us with your data already. In summary, please don't feed the trolls. We're interested in feedback and all sorts of things to be useful to search straight from the home lens and how to improve the search results, as well as provide better control of the process to you. And like we're saying, we're playing with the very first implementation here, right?
Well, and I think perhaps what they mean by having root is that they're saying, look, you're not this transition of data is not going straight to Amazon. It's basically going to Canonical and then from them to Amazon. And if that's the case, that's fine, but it doesn't negate the issue that folks are complaining about. Again, this should, whoever is in charge of their PR needs to be smacked because this is ridiculous. There is no need for any of this to have ever been an issue. So avoidable.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's total newbie 101 stuff. I mean, come on.
Here's a couple while we're just talking about it. Here's a little eye porn of the new Dash stuff in Unity is actually kind of compelling. I thought I muted that crap.
I like the music.
I know, right? That's OMG Ubuntu's got a great video up. It actually is. The Dash is. Because there's quite a bit you can accomplish inside this thing, including some early versions of application software management and reading reviews of different packages, managing photos, previewing video clips, all without ever having to close the Dash. It's kind of neat.
That's very cool.
And all keyboard accessible too, but they're showing the mouse in this one. But yeah.
Oh, that's cool though. I like that.
All right, Matt, why don't we talk about a up-and-coming window manager, perhaps?
Okay.
It's called Gala.
Gala?
Gala? What do you think, Gala? What do you
think? For Gala? Works for me.
No. So here is we have a video demonstration of it. It's got it's
cool wallpaper.
A very, very, very fancy, I guess, window animation. And
it's got some...
They call them visual enhancements. They have they have all of the bring it over to snap to a line and things like that. And it looks very fast. It's very early still. It's being led by somebody named Tom Beckman, who is the very own guy who created Clutter, and Rico Tezadishalalias.
Cool.
You like that?
I like it.
Tezadishalazas. I don't know. He's from Plank, and they've been working on this for 3 months, and they're getting really excited.
And I think, as one person in the chat room put it, is very Mac-ish. And that's not always a bad thing, as long as you take away the good stuff and implement that and ignore the not-so-good stuff. That's okay. Everybody's got their own experience they enjoy. Good, whatever, you know.
But it looks pretty neat. I just wanted to give people a heads up to go check it out. I don't know if it's ready for prime time yet.
Right.
But they all kinds of things, like anti-alias fonts.
I mean, I would definitely say it's an attractive
nice
layout.
shadow. You know, even the shadowing kind of reminds me of the Mac.
Yeah, a lot of people want that, but they want to control their hardware, and that's okay.
So go check that out. We'll have a link to Gala in the show notes.
Gala for Gala.
All right, Matt. Well, that's all the news for this week. All right, Matt, it's time to tweak our box to get the best performance possible, and then we'll also cover some of our suggestions to get the best battery life possible.
You bet.
And we've also got some questions sent in for some different tweak suggestions and ideas, and we've got a thread started, so we got a lot to cover.
Nice.
So before we go, let's say thank you to System76 for bringing you this segment. System76 has sponsored this segment because they love it when you get the most from your machine.
And we love System76.
And we do, because they have some awesome systems, including one that is particularly applicable to this segment. One of their deals right now, they have free fall upgrades. You can either get a 750 gigabyte hard drive, but here's the performance one, or a 500 gigabyte hybrid drive. That's the one that has a little SSD space on it. And we're going to actually talk about what you can do with some of that later on in the segment. So thank you to System76 for rocking the support of this segment. They sent us one of their very nice Wild Dog performance machines.
Beautiful machine. Beautiful machine.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yes. All right, Matt. Now, most everything this week, I think, in fact, everything we're going to talk about,
it's all about me.
You've talked about in further detail up in a write-up on datamation.com.
Yep. You can find that at datamation.com/open source.
Open source, or link in the show notes, of
Or
course.
the link in the show notes.
So anything we cover, if you want more details or more information or even more suggestions of what we list, go read that. Matt's got a good 2-page write-up on some of that stuff. But all right, Matt, what do you say we start with things that just make you more productive, and then we'll move into actual system tweaks and things like that. All right.
I like it.
First up on your list, and it's one that I never give enough love to, and that's Synapse.
We were complaining earlier about the stuff with Dash, and this is an alternative that I use on my Ubuntu. Well, pretty much any installation of any Linux distro I use these days, but especially with Ubuntu for myself. It's basically a keyboard launcher, and what that means is if you're familiar with something like GNOME do, you can basically control backspace, or excuse me, control space rather, and launch pretty much anything, including and not limited to documents, pictures. You can even browse the web. There's plugins to extend this as far as you want. And what's cool is if you don't know where something is, chances are you can find it by typing it into this thing, hitting enter, and it's going to give you a list of possibilities. I love that.
It's actually very easy for new users to use, too.
It's just super. It's such a no-brainer.
I gave it a quick mention last week, and the chat room, some of the chat room was like, oh, I love Synapse, like they are now. Some of us like, what? What? So there you go.
It's a great GNOME do alternative. That's a good way of putting it. And it's definitely a great Dash alternative.
All right, now this next tweet got my sort of wheels turning, because I'm an old school guy. I've been partitioning my systems for years. I still put swap partitions on my boxes. This is something, though, that's called ZRAM, right? ZRAM swap.
ZRAM swap. So basically, instead of going with a old school swap file, this is going to basically create an alternative that's going to run faster. It's going to basically a block device.
Does it run from RAM?
My understanding is that it actually does.
It creates a little virtual RAM drive.
It does, but it also, but if you use it in conjunction with these other tips, everything's going to be so compressed down, it's not such an issue. And a lot of the stuff is going to be more so for your, I don't know, maybe you have a system that's a couple years old. You're going to see more benefit than you will. Now, if you're running a System76 PC, you really don't need this, but it's still cool to play with.
Yeah, and I love the idea, too, where I have a little, like, perfect example for me is I have a little MSI Win. It's right here.
That's a good example.
And I've got very, very little space to work with. But I've put plenty of, for what I'm doing on the thing, I've put plenty of memory in there too. And so I know some folks aren't even doing swap these days. So
yeah, and you don't necessarily need to, but this is a nice way of still having your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty cool.
Let's talk about a package that might actually help speed things up. It's almost available in every distribution's repo, and it's called Preload.
Preload's an interesting twist because while it does speed your system up, it also technically does add a little overhead to your overall play. So if you've got enough RAM, this does make sense, and it can make sense on newer systems in that case.
So think of it as like it's a daemon that sits in the background, monitors what you do on your box, and then adaptively and intelligently preloads and pre-caches some of the libraries, so that way when an application starts up that requires something, part of it's already available in memory, and it might not be as relevant on an SSD.
No, it's not really. Yeah, and some of these are not necessarily going to be the most beneficial on an SSD. But
if you combine preload with ZRAM, and you're dealing with the spinning hard drive, which I would imagine the majority of people are.
I still got a couple.
You're starting to get you're starting to take some load off of that spinning disk. You're starting to get some performance improvements here, and it is so critical. Reducing disk I/O is one of the biggest things. People will be shocked if they put an SSD in an old machine, how much that machine will bounce back to life.
It's unbelievable.
That disk is the central point of your performance bottleneck.
So this will give you some of that performance as an alternative to getting a new hard drive.
Now this is one I liked a lot because you refactored. We're always talking about kernel tweaks or RAM swap options. But honestly, the applications you run and the requirements that they have can make a huge impact on your system performance. One of the which I think everybody's familiar with is Flash is a dog.
Yeah, it is. But and you have to have the browser open to run it on top of it.
Very true, right? Yeah, I mean, and the browsers these days take way too much memory. And I'm a Pandora user, so this just changed my life, Matt. It's called Pithos.
Pithos is a great way to listen to Pandora. Not only are you spared the advertising, which I have mixed feelings about. I don't mind ads. That's fine. But you're spared the advertising, but you can also jump from channel to channel. You can love, like, dislike, all the music you want. It's a great way to work. The only thing you got to remember to do is occasionally check for updates because sometimes it breaks.
Okay.
But that's not a big deal.
Well, here's what I have Pithos installed right here. So I'll give people a quick little walkthrough. So one thing that I like is it actually gives you more information than the standard Pandora client. I can see the next 3 songs coming up. I can tell I don't want this Jewel song.
Now go up to your volume slider up there, up to the upper right.
Oh yes. This is the other thing I love a lot.
This is where, because I always have it minimized.
It integrates in with the playback system, so you can play and pause from Pandora right here in the volume menu under Ubuntu here. The other thing that they have is they give you more technical options. Like you can choose the AACC Plus stream, the MP3 stream, MP3 High stream. You can integrate with Last.fm. I like all of this. You can right click. You can thumbs up or thumbs down songs.
Bookmark the song.
Bookmark it. It's a very good fast interface.
Oh, it's super fast. It's so much nicer than having to run something in a browser. It's just I can't recommend it enough. If you love Pandora, you're gonna love this.
Pithos. And link in the show notes. They have packages available for Fedora, for Urch, for Ubuntu, for OpenSUSE. So yeah, everybody should be happy. Okay. Wow, did we just blow through that list?
We just blew through that list.
All right. Well, here is now we wanted to get onto the topic of before we get to power management. Let's round out the performance tips.
Okay.
What would be? This was sent in, by the way, I should mention, by Hybrid Moments 1387. Boy, that's kind of a perfect user nick with his question.
Yeah, very specific.
He says, "What would be the best way to partition a hybrid hard drive? I might be getting a hybrid drive with my laptop with 4 or 8 gigs of SSD space on it. What would be an effective partition size that will utilize the SSD part? I know the /home would go on the standard hard drive, so should I put part or all of the root onto the SSD, or should I put maybe just boot on the SSD?
I'd probably put all root.
I would try to as well, and you could always
just less monkeying.
I mean, and you could always go crazy. Like you could put /user on the hard drive if you're worried about that. But if you now go with the 8 gigs. First of all, go with the 8 gigs for sure. And then the nice thing about having all of that on the hard drive is everything's faster. Accessing the config files is faster. Loading libraries is faster. Everything is faster if you can do that. If you can't do it, focus on your library directories. Focus on maybe Etsy.
Good. Yeah,
because Etsy really isn't that big, so it's cheap to put it on there. Yeah, I would not really bother with your /boot. You access /boot like for a few seconds, and then honestly, all of that stuff gets loaded into RAM.
Yeah, no, there's no advantage to messing with that. So,
Alan says, and this is an important note, is some hybrid hard drives only work as cache by default. And that hybrid storage is not available to the operating system. Some of them it shows up as a SATA disk. Some of them the drive will automatically cache your most frequently accessed files, and you don't manage that at all. And
that's a good point.
That's almost a better solution because the hard drive has controller chips on there that are aware of that.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. All right. So we'll link to this thread in the show notes. Yeah. If you have done this and you have some suggestions and some experience, please leave a comment in the thread and let the Hybrid Moments 1387 guy know.
Yep.
Okay, Matt. Now, why don't we shift gears and talk about wow. Look at all of these great suggestions.
Oh, goodness
I did have one more performance suggestion that was pointed out in one of these threads that I wanted to get to. There's a bunch of really, really great ones, and I haven't got a chance to read through all of them. But one that seemed really kind of compelling that I want to check out is PDNSD.
Okay.
PDNSD, Persistent Caching DNS Server. And this comes in from Archdemon. He says, you'll notice that the pages you visit will load faster and the DNS cache persists after reboot. So it's a local DNS caching daemon on your machine.
Yeah.
There's going to be some side effects.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan, but I get it.
You got to know what you're doing if you do this, because if something changes on the net and you have a cache, you're not going to get the right results. Now, I would assume it has some intelligence for that, but so consider that. However, you know, as someone who I run a local DNS server on my network, and I noticed the improvement.
Yeah, do you? Okay.
And you know, it's funny. My wife this morning was complaining about, oh, the web pages are loading slow. It seems like everything I'm going to is taking way too long to load. I sat down on her machine, and she had gotten a DHCP lease from our router incorrectly, and she was using external DNS. I switched her back over to our internal DNS. Oh, yeah, everything's way faster. Everything's way faster.
Nice.
So there is a perceivable difference, and if you take that even closer, and you put this PDNSD on your local machine, and you're only querying that, and that's in memory, right? That's in RAM.
Okay, yeah, no, I could see some advantages. I think as long as you know what you're doing and you know what to look for, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm lazy. I just do OpenDNS. Yeah.
There are some great freaking suggestions in here, including everything from tweaks to boot times. Like one of yours was
great.
One of your suggestions was reducing the grub default bootloader time, so that it just boots up a little quicker.
Mixed bag, you know, can also be a problem for you if you need to get into it.
But DB816, if you guys want to get really down and dirty, has got some TCP syscontrol parameters that you could pass along to potentially make things like Samba and NFS a little faster. I mean, there's some really good suggestions in here. Now, we didn't get to those ones because they're a little intense, and we wanted to be able to also cover some power management ones. But great threads. We'll put a link to that in the show notes if you guys want to check that out. All right, Matt, now should we get into the power management tips and tricks for folks?
Yeah, let's get into that. That's the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, the meat and potatoes. So if you've got a laptop that has not had the battery life that you would hope for, hopefully we've got a few things that'll help you narrow things down. Now, we talked a bit about laptop mode, and you had mentioned that you'd used a tool to tell the difference between laptop mode engaged and laptop mode turned off.
Right. And first of all, you install it to where it actually exists, and then it has that live detection there.
So why don't we start with laptop mode? So laptop mode is crazy easy to get installed. Package available for every distro. Almost every single kernel out there ships with all of the stuff that it needs for laptop mode turned on. A lot of the distros actually have all of the config already set up out of the box, and they're just waiting for the package.
That's right.
Now, if you do install it on Ubuntu, I want to tell you what you can do. So let's take a look at what laptop mode's capable of, and then we'll go from there, okay? So I've already installed laptop mode on this computer, right? And I'll go up into here, and I will say, let's go edit the laptop mode config. And you can just find that in, I think it's Etsy laptop...
I believe it isn't.
Yeah, or is it defaults? Defaults laptop mode? I can't remember where it is. I can't remember either. Anyways,
I was using that GUI for so long it made me lazy.
Well, if you go into I can't remember the config file off the top of my head, but if you go into the config file, everything will be commented out for you. But all of the defaults are generally acceptable. Like one of the ones that might run you a little trouble is it actually has the ability to unmount certain partitions in order to allow that drive to spin down.
Yeah, so you know, in the wrong environment, that can be a problem. But you know, but again, that can be edited.
It is Etsy laptop mode. I wonder maybe I didn't get it installed properly on this machine.
Maybe.
Well, here's
we drop it in the show notes.
Let's find out. If you do it, so on Ubuntu, I believe it's just apt-get install laptop -mode -tools. I believe is the
and if
package
not,
name.
No, I think you have to actually get it from the package or repos.
No, I just have to type the right command.
Oh, well, that helps too.
It's hard to type and talk at the same time.
That works. There we go. Okay, here we go.
That'll load it up, and then I'll go edit. It's 12.10. I don't know if their package manager does stuff differently, but did you see how fast it just installed all of those?
Yeah, no,
packages?
It was definitely the package management is definitely faster.
All right, so there we go. So then it's it's Etsy laptop -mode /laptop -mode.com.
Okay, good.
And then once you go in there, you can see it's a very simple. It's long, but very easily defined.
Telling you what each thing is.
Lots. So it says here, you know, laptop mode, how to enable it, and you can see by default it's already turned on.
And those are the two key pieces right there. Is enabled by default for battery on.
Yep. And enabled
and then off for
AC.
Plug in. Yep.
So enabled. So here you go. Enabled laptop mode on AC is 0, which means don't use laptop mode when on. And here's another one. Enable laptop mode when lid is closed.
Yeah.
This might be for those of you who run your laptop with your lid closed and you have it hooked up to a monitor, you might want to toggle this one.
That's right.
So stuff to look at there. But otherwise, the defaults are pretty sane in laptop mode.
Oh, it's very easy.
All right. So Matt, once laptop mode is loaded, that's where things get. So which one is this? Can you tell by looking at it?
That is going to be with it enabled.
Okay. So let's look at it before it's enabled.
Okay.
So here's PowerTop.
Yep. And this is with the cord unplugged, running on battery out of the box. I do have a throttle running, but that doesn't matter. It does not make any difference. As you can see a lot of bad going on in that screenshot.
PowerTop is a tool that's also part of our recommendations here. Load it on your laptop. Use it as like you would top. PowerTop is top for power-hungry things. It looks at what processes are using the most power.
And you
on the
can,
machine.
for troubleshooting purposes, spacebar, alter them, just bam, 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 and actually then gauge the performance differences from that.
So once you have laptop mode turned on, let's look at the results for that. So here we go. Here are the results for laptop mode turned on. You can see. What do you see in this, Matt?
The only difference that you'll see here is that there's a lot more good going on, but the top thing, you still have VM write back timeout is still set for bad, if you will, but everything else is set to good. And so immediately you're going to see the good and the bad. I love the terminology for PowerTop. It's so easy.
Good, bad,
good and bad. And so, you know, Joe Blow looking at this, it's like, oh, well, that's good's good, bad's bad. Obviously, I'm getting more power. And then from my own usage, I noticed an increase of, I'd say, probably about an hour to hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Just having it enabled.
Yeah.
You know, there are other things I do as well, but I would say that was generally my most consistent experience with it.
Now, I can't run it on this machine.
Yeah, and as someone in the chat room pointed out, 0 is false and 1 is true.
Unfortunately, this isn't a laptop, so it doesn't have all of the all the power subsystem stuff, so I can't show it to you. But if you look at it, what I love about PowerTop is it also will show you how many wake-ups a second you're having, how many times. And what I discovered is, for whatever reason, my audio device on my laptop is constantly waking my kernel. It's constantly talking to the CPU. It's constantly
and this
taking
will help with that. Actually, laptop.
So laptop mode helps bring that down. When I ran PowerTop later, I saw it was simmering way down. I went for something like 700 wake-ups a second to like 140 wake-ups. And
big difference. And that's out of the box. I mean, that's without even having to really tweak it.
Yeah. So that's definitely one I think we have to strongly work. So combine laptop mode, which was our desktop pick this week. Combine that with PowerTop.
Yeah.
And watch those two things.
And the newer kernels, of course, have better power management anyway. So, I mean, with those things all bundled together, it's pretty sweet.
Now, Matt also included links, and I think it does only work on 32-bit, but that's all right. Laptop mode has a GUI that you can find. I think there's source and a deb. So
yeah, there is source and a deb. And so if you want to actually compile this on another distro, you can. But for Ubuntu folks,
this is a GUI that allows you to configure laptop mode, and you can skip that config file altogether if you have.
It's quite literally a front end to the config file we just showed you. And the tooltips will reflect that.
Yeah.
It's available from someone that basically just uploaded it to the Ubuntu forums. But you know, it's one way of doing it. Personally, I would recommend just sticking with the text file if possible.
The text file is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, a little safer.
It's like, even if you're not a big config tweaker person, it's a good one to kind of to get into because it's very.
And get your feet
easy.
wet. Yeah, you know, definitely.
Now, another one that I think a lot of people would probably be recommending is CPU Frec utils.
Yes.
Which is sort of an underlying technology that a lot of these things can rely on. Like, I think the Jupyter plugin.
I think they use that as a back.
Jupyter is an interesting one. No, not the network, not the podcast network.
No relation to that.
It is a tool that can run up in your system tray that allows you to choose different performance profiles and access things like turn off your wireless, turn on, turn off your Bluetooth, all from a single menu.
And it has great memory, so that if you have set it to be performance when it's plugged in or on demand when it's not plugged in, it will remember that even after reboot, which is a nice feature.
Yeah, I have actually used this not so much for power management, but on my Envy laptop, sometimes it overheats.
Yes,
and I can use this to run everything down one step. Runs a little cooler. Fan doesn't run quite as much.
And also on some notebooks, you will actually get a temp, which is kind of nice too. Yeah. So it's got some neat features and lets you kind of control some stuff, disable some stuff. And if you're really needing to push the limits, you can use that throttle.
You know, the other thing that's neat too, and in combination with CPU Frec, is there's a CPU Frec includes, I didn't install it here, but CPU Frec includes a bunch of info. Okay. So you can get the current scaling state of your CPU. So you can look at it and see if you're, in fact, on that laptop, I was noticing that Unity Dash was running really slow, and so I was like, I wonder if Jupyter is really. I wonder if I really have things dialed down. I use CPU Frec info, and it returns like, oh yeah, my processor is running at 900 megahertz right now. You know, so you can really there's a good range, and then there's those kind of CPU Frec tools will help you kind of.
That's cool. So you can kind of see what's going on.
See why the heck stuff is running just so dang slow.
Neat.
Yeah, and of course, you know, if you're just browsing the web, you don't mind if it's maybe running it at 900 megahertz or whatever. Yep. I don't know. Look at that.
That's a new feature, apparently.
That is a really
that's interesting. Okay.
All right. So one last recommendation, Matt, and that.
Yeah, that is going to be.
I'm going to say.
Where are we at?
I don't know. I'm troubleshooting.
Try and bounce to another.
This is what I get for using. Ubuntu 12 ton on a live production here.
12 ton.
12 ton.
That's a Freudian slip there.
It's no slip, man. All right. So the last tip that forget it. Jeez, what a pain in the butt.
That's all right.
The last tip I want to recommend is there is a power savings thread in the Linux Action Show subreddit. Surprise, surprise, right? And people have gone in there and they've put in what they've done to get the best battery optimization.
And there's some good tips in there.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. But we need more. So so go add yours, and we'll keep that alive. We'll put a link in the show notes. One of them, the submitter of the thread who started it, was it PC Man? PCMM. He recommended a power saving script that he runs that automatically just manages laptop mode for him and kind of ramps things up. So it's a little more aggressive version of laptop mode that puts USB devices in lower power that he just turns on and off manually, which sounds pretty cool.
That is cool. Okay.
Yeah. And there's also, he included some kernel parameters in there that he does to conserve battery life.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So very good stuff in there. And if you guys want to put your suggestions there, we might do a follow-up on this in the feedback segment.
I think it'd be worthwhile. Yeah.
Just
see what kind of stuff we got.
All right, Matt. So let's before we get out of here, let's just round it up. Starting with I think our key things to try would be what's the Pandora replacement?
It's a Pithos.
Pithos. Check out Pithos. Check out laptop mode. Check out PowerTop. If you haven't tried Synapse yet, you got to go do that. That'll make you launching things, get you going a lot faster.
You'll love it. You'll never go back.
If you've got a standard hard drive, check out things like ZRAM and also check out Preload.
Yes.
That'll help you get a little more performance out of your old spinning drive. And last but not least, you could always check out Jupyter. And check out CPU Freck Utils. We'll have links to all of that stuff in the show notes. Actually, links to everything we talked about will be in there. And those, you combine all of these things into concert, Matt, and you've actually got yourself a pretty good setup.
I think so. And if you're a newbie and you're not really wanting to get too deep into it, I would stick with, I'd say Preload's a good one, Jupyter Applet, and laptop tools, mode tools. I think those are three safe bets that you won't have to monkey with too much.
Great call. Those get you going real fast. So yeah, all right, Matt. So thank you to everyone for doing that. Now, in 2 weeks, next week, we're reviewing PCBSD. The week after that, we're going to do our tips and tweaks to get your home server rocking. So you have a chance to get those in. If you want something to make it into the show, we'll have a thread that you can go toss all of your suggestions in, and we'll cover some of those in that segment in a couple of weeks. And that'll be a fun one because I just recently reset up my home server.
Oh, yeah?
And I got a whole bunch of new toys on there I want to tell people about, so I'm looking forward to that.
Nice.
But next week, we're going to reach out to our brothers in the open source world in the BSD camp.
Nice.
Shake their hand and try out PCBSD, and we'll come back from and we'll give you a Linux user's perspective on PCBSD, and that'll be next week. And we might even have special guest visitor Alan from TechSnap.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, so tune in next week for that. All right, Matt. Well, that's the Linux Action Show's tip to pimp your rig. That brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. Matt, what do you say we do a little feedback?
Let's do some feedback. Woo!
All right, so thank you for emailing the Linux Action Show at jupiterbroadcasting.com. And our first email came from Drew. And he says, I want to let everybody know about a great add-on to Duplicity, which you might be familiar with, Matt, is a nice little backup tool for the Linux desktop. And Duplicity/Dajup is a Python Duplicity/Dajup is Python Voodoo for Linux app pick. Oh boy, that is
that's a mouthful, isn't it?
Jeez, guys, come on, man! Don't you know how hard I have at reading? Anyways, it's in the Software Center if you're an Ubuntu user, and it's a little add-on called Python Boto, Python-Boto.
Python Boto, huh? Okay.
Yeah, but what's neat is it allows Duplicity to back up to Amazon S3.
Oh.
Yeah, he says he installed this yesterday and was surprised to find how well it actually works. He says, and by the way, why back up to Amazon S3? Well, he's got a few reasons for you. 3 years ago, I was using ButterFS on my laptop. Wow.
3 years ago? Wow, that's some bravery. Okay.
Dude, you're a cowboy. Okay, anyways.
On a laptop.
His laptop overheated, and he found out after that the file system got corrupted. Well, surprise, surprise. And that FSCK for ButterFS didn't exist yet.
The butter was still churning. Yeah.
Since then, I've valued online backups more because I still haven't quite been able to recover the code I was writing on that runs my website. Oh, man, I've been there. It says Amazon S3 only costs 12 cents a gigabyte for every gigabyte past the first 5 gigabyte, which are free. So in my case, 50 gigs used, I ended up spending only like $65 a year. I do the same thing. I use Jungle Disk.
Yeah, same here.
And
I swear by it. It's just brain dead simple.
Yep. My wife upstairs uses CrashPlan.
Oh, yeah.
The thing I like about CrashPlan, unlimited storage. They have Linux clients, and they also allow you to do LAN syncing as well as backing up to a local drive.
Yeah, I actually do that with my mom. Her stuff.
CrashPlan?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
I have it back up to my stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a really
That's a nice thing.
And CrashPlan do that for free.
Yep.
I mean, I wish these guys need to get an affiliate because I'd love to plug them. I think Anne's been using them for like a year and change. I mean, it's been.
I've reached out to them numerous times. Anyway,
the next email comes in from Matt. No, not this Matt.
Not this one.
He says, "What do you think about CAD for Linux via Steam?" He goes, "Hey guys, just discovered your show and it's damn awesome. Had to go back and watch them all. Hardcore.
Nice.
I liked your OpenSUSE 12.2 review and agree with all the points. Tried it out with similar issues on a non-live boot. I had some wireless issues, and I'm a Ubuntu user. I think I'm going to stick with it for now. I love Unity, by the way. Okay. One thing, though, which no one ever talks about in the Linux world, is professional CAD. And
that's true.
We do mention video editing quite a bit in video games, but
CAD doesn't get enough love.
It's true.
Yeah.
So he says, I use Autodesk products professionally and would be keen to see a port or new software written for the Linux platform. All the buzz surrounding Steam ports and Lightworks is great. Maybe we'll see something similar from CAD manufacturers. Migrating to Linux for professional workflow would be a massive step up, and although it doesn't, I lost him there. Another interesting Linux project that we're using for my home network a few years ago is Amahi. Have you checked it out? Maybe a review is worthwhile. Amahi.org. We have, and maybe you'll hear more about that in our home server tweaking episode. So I put this in here because it's interesting to see with Valve talking about not just distributing games through Steam. Right. You might see companies like Autodesk going, well, we know Valve. We trust Valve.
Exactly. Maybe let them do the heavy lifting for us. We'll develop it. You guys distribute it.
Maybe, huh?
Makes sense.
Golomer writes in, and this is one of our last emails here. He says, every election in Brazil, more than 130 million people use Linux. Hi, folks. Not sure if you knew this already, but as a Brazilian, I'm obligated to vote, and if the government chooses, I'm obligated to vote, and if the government chooses you to work on the elections, you just have to do it. So anyways, I was attending training on how to deal with the basic steps of using our voting machines. Yep, in Brazil, 99.99% of votes are made electronically. I was pretty surprised when I discovered these machines run Linux. You can check out more details in a 2008 article here at br-linux.org. So every election in Brazil, more than 130 million people use Linux.
Well, and I knew Brazil was a huge Linux user, but so I'm not terribly surprised by that. But that's awesome. That's really cool.
Here's a great example of why sometimes it pays to submit questions to the subreddit because you get them answered before we get a chance to cover them on the show. Right. This one comes in from Sisselwolf. I really want to try Wayland, he says. And does anyone know of a way to try Wayland without breaking my machine? And the comments came to the rescue right away. If you want to try Wayland, check out the Rebecca Black Linux distribution over at sourceforge.net/project/Rebecca Black OS.
Well,
out of the box Wayland display server. Check it out. There's also some other suggestions in here, but I love the idea of trying out Rebecca OS. Come on, Rebecca Black OS. That's
right up there with Justin Bieber.
Look how great it is.
Right. Hey, that's cool.
Wayland.
But it's cool to kind of get your feet with the Wayland.
Cool, yes.
It's not probably something you're going to use every day. But,
All right, Matt. So there you go. Just a reminder, we do have that home server thread. Let's start getting that going. That's some good stuff in there. Yep. Matt, anything you want to plug before we get out of here this week?
As always, you can find me at datamation.com/open-source. Otherwise, you can find me doing newbie tutorials for Ubuntu users at matthartley.com. I should have a new video out coming Monday or Tuesday, and my most recent video actually has a little shout-out to Police Squad with the Millennium Falcon, so check that out.
Police Squad and the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, yeah, it's got the best of both worlds. And Linux.
Whoa.
You can't ask for anything more.
All right, well, I don't really have anything to plug, but I just want to remind folks that the Jupiter radio station is streaming 24/7. You just go to jblive.info, and you can find 128 kilobit streams, which sound great on your desktop, or a 64-bit kilobit stream, which sounds great on your mobile device. And you can tune in, hear what's going on there. And we also have the Callisto Jupiter Broadcasting app in the Android marketplace, and also Shane Kufel's app. And they're just search for Jupiter Broadcasting. A couple of good apps, one with streaming video support, one with streaming audio support. And they both get that Jupiter radio station streaming 24/7. And we have a mix of other Linux podcasts.
Oh, yeah. Some good stuff out there.
The Sunday morning Linux reviews on there. Mintcast is on there. There's Hacker News that's on. There's a couple, actually. There's a few that are on there. There's also a few other great shows as well as some all music blocks and things like that streaming 24/7. Just go to jblive.info to get the direct links to that.
Get that running.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. And we'll see you right back here next week.
Hey, Davis.
What excel?
Dumb stuff.
Oh, yeah. You mean you don't want the phaser for the rest of the show?
No. All right. Anyway.